The assembly will now come to order. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson, Assemblywoman Backus, Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod, Assemblywoman Brown May, Assemblyman Carter, Assemblywoman Cohen, Assemblywoman Considine, Assemblyman DeLong, Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblyman De Silva, Assemblywoman Duran, Assemblywoman Gallant, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, Assemblywoman Gorlow, Assemblyman Gray, Assemblyman Gurr, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblywoman Hanson, Assemblywoman Hardy, Assemblyman Hibbets, Assemblywoman Howdigi, Assemblywoman Kasama, Assemblyman Koenig, Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch, Assemblywoman Marzola, Assemblyman MacArthur, Assemblywoman Brittany Miller, Assemblyman C.H. Miller, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, Assemblywoman Mosca, Assemblywoman Newby, Assemblyman Wynn, Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Ortlicker, Assemblywoman Peters, Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, Assemblywoman Taylor, Assemblywoman Thomas, Assemblywoman Torres, Assemblyman Watts, Assemblyman Urick, Speaker Yeager.
Here. Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect we have 42 members present.
The record shall so reflect we have 42 members present. That means we do have a quorum. Would members of the assembly and guests please rise? This morning we have the prayer by Pastor Ken Haskins, First Christian Church from right here in Carson City.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, the psalmist declares that your law is perfect, refreshing the soul, that your statutes are trustworthy, making wise the simple. Your precepts are right, giving joy to the heart. Your commands are radiant, giving light to the eyes. Oh, bless these legislators today with the knowledge, understanding, and wisdom needed to make good decisions. On behalf of all Nevadans, I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. When you can do the same for Pete.
Order business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Monday, May
Assemblywoman
8th.
Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with the reading of the journal and allow the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make any necessary corrections and additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Order business 4, reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary, to which were referred Senate Bills 37, 55, 62, 67, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to put the same back with the recommendation do pass. Brittany Miller, Chair.
Order business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
ACR 4, introduced by Assemblyman Summers Armstrong et al. Directing the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Government Affairs to conduct a study of the use of polygraphic examinations on certain employees. Resolved that this resolution becomes effective upon adoption. End of resolution.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly adopt Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 4.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong has moved for the adoption of Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 4. Any remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Concurrent Resolution 4 directs the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Government Affairs to conduct a study during the 2023-2024 interim of the use of polygraphic examinations on prospective government employees.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 4 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The resolution is adopted and ordered transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 6, introduced by Assemblyman Summers Armstrong et al. Directing the Joint Interim Standing Committee on the Judiciary to conduct a study relating to battery which constitutes domestic violence. Result that this resolution becomes effective upon adoption. End of resolution.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly adopt Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 6.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong has moved for the adoption of Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 6. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Concurrent Resolution 6 directs the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Judiciary to conduct a study during the 2023-24 interim relating to battery, which constitutes domestic violence and is committed by strangulation.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 6 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The resolution is adopted and ordered transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Resolution 7, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, Howdegee, and O'Neill. Adding former Assemblyman Pete Livermore to the Assembly Wall of Distinction. Whereas the Assembly of the Legislature of the State of Nevada has established a wall of distinction for those past members of the Assembly selected by leadership who served with great distinction and who made exemplary contributions to the State of Nevada. And whereas Pete Livermore spent his career in public service tending to his community, improving the quality of life for generations of Nevadans through his work championing youth sports, safeguarding the Carson River watershed, and fostering investments in the health and well-being of his constituents. And whereas Pete's dedication to Nevada began after meeting his future wife, Lori Bird, on a visit to Carson City while serving in the United States Marine Corps. And whereas, after moving to the Silver State and working as a mail carrier in Carson City, Pete embraced entrepreneurship, eventually owning 3 A&W restaurants that became popular with local residents and state legislators. And whereas, after several years in the private sector, Pete chose to devote his life to public service, sitting on numerous boards and commissions affecting public health, land use planning, and quality of life for seniors, in addition to serving 2 years as mayor pro tempore of Carson City. And whereas Pete's sense of duty extended to coaching youth sports and serving as the president of the Carson City Youth Sports Association for 25 years. And whereas, during his 12-year tenure on the Carson City Board of Supervisors, one of Pete's proudest achievements was developing the Edmonds Sports Complex, a hub for youth sports which has since been renamed in his honor. And whereas, in 2010, Pete's passion for serving his community was put to work at the state level after winning election to the Nevada Assembly, where he advocated on behalf of the constituents of District Number 40 for 2 regular sessions. And whereas, while in the Assembly, Pete led the charge to preserve the 150-year-old Nevada State Prison, advancing signature legislation that affirmed its historical significance and paved the way not only for its revitalization as a state museum, but also for its inclusion on the National Register of Historic Places. And whereas Pete served in the Assembly with honor and distinction until his passing on October 20, 2014, and is remembered for placing the needs of his constituents and the people of Nevada first. And whereas Pete was posthumously honored by the Carson Water Sub-Conservancy District for his exemplary work protecting the Carson River watershed, including his furtherance of the Carson City Quality of Life Initiative, which expanded protection of the watershed and public access to outdoor recreation. And whereas, in addition to the measureless dedication he paid to his family, Pete is distinguished for having lived a life of meaningful service, for drawing upon his intelligence, wit, and generosity to strengthen his community and better the state of Nevada. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Assembly of the State of Nevada that Pete Livermore is hereby added to the Assembly Wall of Distinction, and be it further resolved that the Chief Clerk of the Assembly prepare and transmit a copy of this resolution to Pete's beloved wife, Lori, and their children, Richard, Sherry, and Jackie, and be it further resolved that this resolution becomes effective upon adoption. End of resolution.
Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly adopt Assembly Resolution Number 7.
Assemblyman O'Neill has moved for the adoption of Assembly Resolution Number 7. Remarks?
Order of Business 15, Mr. Speaker.
Order of Business 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my distinct pleasure to rise in support of this resolution to honor former Assemblyman Pete Livermore with his introduction to the Assembly Wall of Distinction. It is an honor to remember the profound impact he had on the state and his home, Carson City. Pete's entire life was dedicated to public service, giving back to his community. He was born in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1941. At the age of 17, he joined the United States Marine Corps, where he served from 1958 to 1962 and reached the rank of Lance Corporal. While serving in the Corps and stationed at Pickle Meadows Marine Base near Bridgeport, California, Pete met his future wife, Lori, who was working as a car hop at the local A&W restaurant. That's almost like a joke, but I won't make it. Pete and Lori Fitterling had their first date on October 31st, 1960, which is also Nevada Day, and a huge celebration in Carson City. They would eventually welcome their 3 children, Richard, Sherry, and Jackie, and grandchildren into their busy lives. The remainder of Pete's distinguished life was spent in service to his new home, Carson, in the state of Nevada. Pete was a renowned businessman who owned 3 A&W restaurants, a staple among Carson City residents and legislators. After several years in the private sector, Pete entered public service, where he would spend 12 years on the Carson City Board of Supervisors. Pete spent a good portion of his time coaching youth sports and spent 2 decades as the president of the Carson City Youth Sports Association. One of Pete's greatest contributions to this city was the development of the sports complex, now honorably named the Pete Livermore Sports Complex. Pete was elected to represent the district in the legislature in 2010, where he served with distinction until his passing in 2014. One of Pete's priorities was to protect the environment surrounding his community. In 1996, Pete was a champion of the Quality of Life initiative known as Question 18 here in Carson, which provided funding to improve parks, sports fields, and other recreational facilities. The funding was vital for preserving the Carson River watershed. Pete's signature legislation turned the Nevada State Prison into a state museum, which is now recognized on a National Historical Registry of Historic Places. Pete was also dedicated to improving the health of his community and served as a trustee in the Carson Tahoe Hospital for 26 years. While he was a dedicated public servant, he was also an avid outdoorsman and enjoyed spending time with family and friends, wide open spaces of rural Nevada. Pete is remembered for his intelligence, his integrity, and many years of service to the state and to Carson. I ask that you join me in supporting this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting Assembly Resolution Number 7 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Assemblyman O'Neill, would you like to go to Order Business 15?
Please.
Order Business 15.
With me today, get out of the way, you all want to stand. I have the majority of Pete's family. Unfortunately, his son wasn't able to be here tonight, but I have Lori Livermore, his wife, Sherry, and her daughter, Krista Niehold. Let me get out of the way, if I may. And along with Jackie and her husband, Craig Nielsen, with us today to share with us on this memory and memorial occasion. Would you please make them feel welcome?
I will also note that the plaque has been unveiled at the front of the Assembly, and you will soon see that up on the Wall of Distinction. So thank you to the family members for being here today. We appreciate it. Assemblywoman Howdegee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 1 minute recess.
We will be in a 1-minute recess.
The Assembly will come back to order. Order of Business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Assembly Resolution 8, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, Howdigi, and O'Neill. Adding former Assemblywoman Barbara E. Buckley to the Assembly Wall of Distinction. Whereas the Assembly of the Legislature of the State of Nevada has established a wall of distinction for those past members of the Assembly selected by leadership who served with great distinction and who made exemplary contributions to the state of Nevada. And whereas Barbara E. Buckley has devoted her career to uplifting Nevada's most vulnerable populations, applying her intelligence, fortitude, and passion for advocacy while serving this state and becoming the first female Speaker of the Assembly. And whereas Barbara's drive to correct injustice is channeled in her legal work, which began after she discovered her passion for law in the early 1980s while working as a legal secretary in Las Vegas. And whereas, as a first-generation college student, Barbara graduated from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and developed her legal expertise at the University of Arizona Law School, earning her Juris Doctorate, summa cum laude, as well as receiving an award for Outstanding Female Law Graduate of 1989. And whereas Barbara's commitment to public service and pursuing justice blossomed while in law school, where she founded the Public Interest Law Organization, and after graduating, the Domestic Violence and Children's Attorneys Project, the first legal program to specifically assist victims of domestic violence and abuse in Clark County. And whereas Barbara's legal career advanced in 1996 when she was named Executive Director of Clark County Legal Services, now the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing access to justice for low-income children and adults in Clark County. And whereas Barbara's call to service brought her to the Nevada Legislature in 1994, where she served her constituents in the Nevada Assembly for 8 regular sessions and 10 special sessions, while shaping legislation that promoted child welfare and expanded access to affordable housing for low-income seniors. And whereas during her legislative tenure, Barbara advanced women's participation in Nevada politics, making history by becoming the first woman to serve as majority floor leader from 2001 to 2007, and the first woman to serve as Speaker from 2007 to 2010. And whereas, under Barbara's leadership, the Assembly passed legislation strengthening consumer protections and promoting economic growth, including payday loan protections and creating the Office for Consumer Health Assistance and the Nevada Foreclosure Mediation Program. And whereas, through her historic leadership in the Assembly and prolonged investment in the legal community of the state, Barbara will be remembered for improving the lives of countless Nevadans, particularly those most in need of advocacy. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Assembly of the State of Nevada that for her 16 years of service in the Assembly and for her steadfast dedication to the State of Nevada, Barbara E. Buckley is hereby added to the Assembly Wall of Distinction. And be it further resolved that the Chief Clerk of the Assembly prepare and transmit a copy of this resolution to former Assemblywoman Barbara E. Buckley. And be it further resolved that this resolution becomes effective upon adoption. End of resolution.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. I move that the Assembly adopt Assembly Resolution Number 8.
Assemblyman Yeager has moved for the adoption of Assembly Resolution Number 8. Remarks?
Assembly Resolution Number 8 adds former Assemblywoman Barbara E. Buckley to the Assembly Wall of Distinction. Order Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. It is my distinct pleasure to rise in support of this resolution to honor former Speaker Buckley with her induction into the Assembly Wall of Distinction. I do want to note I have a copy in front of me of Assembly Resolution Number 6 from the 2005 session that creates the Wall of Distinction. And I will note that Speaker Buckley is a sponsor on that piece of legislation, as is Speaker Perkins, who's joining us on the floor. So we have indeed come full circle. I want to tell you a little bit about Speaker Buckley. I know many of you know her. It was really hard to cut these remarks down to 3 minutes, so I will try my best, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Barbara was born in Philadelphia, but she did what many of us did. She visited Las Vegas, and she fell in love with the Silver State, and she moved here in 1981. She began working as a legal secretary and discovered her passion to pursue a career as an attorney. While attending the law school at the University of Arizona, so we didn't have one yet in Nevada, she founded the Public Interest Law Organization, which provided legal services to those who could not afford it. She was awarded the Outstanding Female Law Graduate for 1989 at the University of Arizona and received the Danny Lee Chandler Award for promoting the First Amendment in law school. If I can be honest about it, Barbara is smart, really smart, and she's very hardworking, as you know. So after law school, Barbara returned to Las Vegas, as most of us do, and eventually was named the executive director of the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada. Under her leadership, the Legal Aid Center established a partnership with the William S. Boyd School of Law to teach legal classes to the public. She expanded the services of the center to include the first legal programs that assist victims of domestic violence and child abuse in Clark County. Barbara was first elected to this body, the Assembly, in 1994. And of course, she was recognized as an outstanding freshman her first term. She quickly demonstrated her prowess and leadership as she was chosen to be the Assistant Majority Leader during just her second term in the Assembly. She held that position until she was asked to serve as the Assembly Floor Majority Leader in 2001, the very first woman to hold that position in the state of Nevada. But Speaker Buckley was not done trailblazing for the women of Nevada, as she was the very first, but not the last, the very first woman to be chosen Speaker of the Assembly in 2007, serving 2 terms in that position. Now, during her esteemed legislative career, Speaker Buckley tackled issues facing healthcare and notably helped pass the Nevada Patient Protection Act. She championed legislation to address affordable assisted living for seniors, child welfare, medical malpractice, and prescription drug pricing. She organized the very first public-private partnership between the Housing Division, HERAS, and the Bureau of Land Management that became the first in Nevada to serve the low-income senior citizen assisted living community. Many personal and professional awards have been bestowed upon her, which would take way more than 3 minutes to tell you about, but here are just a few of them. Legislator of the Decade, Best Public Servant, Assemblywoman of the Year, Best Local Politician, my personal favorite, the best reason not to lose faith in the legislature. Consumer Advocate of the Year, Best Assembly Member for 5 straight legislative sessions. Speaker Buckley was once quoted to say, quote, "Our goal is to represent every abused child. We're not going to rest until every child has a voice," end quote. That is quintessentially Barbara Buckley. She does not rest in the face of injustice. She digs in deeper and works harder and smarter than anyone else in the room. As a body and as a state, we owe a debt of gratitude to Speaker Buckley for the progress she brought to Nevada and this chamber. She has been a friend and mentor to me, and I look around this chamber and I see a lot of you are here, and you could say the exact same thing about Speaker Buckley. So, body, it is an honor to speak to this morning, this afternoon, and I ask you to please join me in supporting this resolution. Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you, Assemblyman Yeager. Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting Assembly Resolution Number 8, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Assemblyman Yeager.
Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. I have with me on the floor Speaker Buckley, and I would ask her to stand. We're going to embarrass her a little bit today. Number one, maybe the least important thing on the desk is the certificate that you've been invited to the floor today. But beyond that, we actually have the resolution, and I will note as well that we've now unveiled the actual plaque toward the front of the chamber. So if you will help me welcome back our own Speaker Buckley as I present this resolution, I would appreciate it.
I'll take a moment of privilege. Speaker Buckley, I don't know if you remember the very first time I came to the legislative body, you met with me in your office, and you invited me to stand up here with you. You said, I see something in you, and one day you will be standing here, and today's that day. Thank you for being a mentor for all of us women that are in this building today, all that's come before you and all that will follow us. You have truly been a blessing to this state. Assemblywoman Hodeggy.
Thank you. Madam Speaker Pro Temp, 1 minute recess, please.
1 minute recess.
The Assembly will come back to order. We are still under Order Business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Senate Joint Resolution 7, introduced by Senators Canizaro et al., Assemblyman Howdicky et al., proposing to amend the Nevada Constitution to establish certain rights relating to reproductive health. Resolved that this resolution becomes effective upon passage. End of resolution.
Are there any amendments to the joint resolution?
There are none.
Remarks. Assemblywoman Howdicky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Joint Resolution 7 proposes to amend the Nevada Constitution to 1, establish a fundamental right to reproductive freedom, 2, authorize the state to regulate abortion care after fetal viability, and 3, prevent the state from penalizing, prosecuting, or taking any other adverse action against an individual based on the outcome of a pregnancy, a provider of health care under certain circumstances related to reproductive freedom, or an individual or entity for aiding or assisting other individual in exercising the individual's right to reproductive freedom. Order of Business 15, Mr. Speaker.
Order Business 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution number 7. For generations, a woman's right to reproductive health care has been considered settled law by Americans across the political spectrum. As a nation, our legal system recognized that abortion action was body autonomy and a fundamental human right. Then, more than 50 years of tried and tested legal precedent were overturned. Overnight, millions of women in America no longer had the freedom to control their own body. Our rights and our freedoms are in peril. Right now, millions of women live in 18 states that have enacted extreme abortion bans. But it's not just abortion bans. Anti-abortion politicians and activists have also been criminalizing birth control, fertility care, and miscarriage management. This includes many states bordering Nevada, such as Idaho, Utah, and Arizona, with bans that force women and their families to travel to our state to address their fundamental health care needs. But in Nevada, we will never allow reproductive freedom to be rolled back. I urge all of my colleagues to support Senate Joint Resolution number 7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Assemblywoman Hanson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to SJR 7, Order of Business 15.
Order Business 15.
In Nevada in 1990, the voters affirmed by state referendum protections of abortion access up to 24 weeks, and after 24 weeks in a hospital when in cases of the life or health of the mother. Nevada has some of the most unrestricted abortion laws in the nation. Additionally, parental notification isn't even required for a minor receiving an abortion in Nevada. So why SJR 7? SJR 7 is an expansion. It seeks to insert into our Constitution in Article 1 a laundry list of reproductive medical services. It also seeks to give immunity to those persons and facilities that perform abortions, and in a disturbing amendment, it now strikes informed consent. Why? When is less information ever a good idea? Isn't medically accurate information based on best available science in the patient's best interest and giving consent to medical procedures a good thing? So again, I ask, why SJR 7? Nothing has changed the legality of access to abortion rights here in Nevada since the Dobbs decision. And why? Because of the 1990 referendum backstop protections. Fearful hypotheticals of this expansion is disingenuous. Nothing we do here in this body can alter the referendum protections. And when I say nothing has changed, I mean nothing. Yes, even minors are still getting abortions without parental notification, before Dobbs and after Dobbs. But ironically, in Nevada law, minors cannot get their ears pierced without, or get a Tylenol at school without parental consent. And now this too could be enshrined in our state constitution as a fundamental right. So again, I ask, why SJR 7? Article 1, Section 20 of the Nevada Constitution, titled Rights Retained by the People, has what is referred to as the saving clause. Don't worry, I'm not going to read the whole book. The enumeration, this is the right in Section 20, rights retained by the people. The enumeration of rights shall not be construed to impair or deny others retained by the people. The Federal Bill of Rights and Article 1 of the Nevada Constitution, therefore, do not confer rights, but protect those that the people already possess. Since it is impossible to list all of those rights, this section saves for the people all those rights that they possess, but that are not explicitly listed here.
And Assemblywoman Hanson, you are approaching 3 minutes. If
Okay,
you could
this
please
is
wrap
just the
up.
last, thank you so much for the indulgence. SJR 7 is duplicative in regards to certain protections already protected, but most worrisome is its expansiveness and the intent behind removing its informed consent protections required everywhere else in the medical field. I urge my colleagues to vote no. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Are there further remarks? Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of SJR 7. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Today, I strongly urge my colleagues to support this resolution because it is needed now more than ever. Things have changed dramatically. The Supreme Court has altered the landscape of access to medical care across our nation. And our state, among many other states, are being tested whether we stand up for reproductive and medical freedom for Nevadans. Decisions about our health care, especially our reproductive health care, should be between a doctor, a patient, and those they trust. This constitutional amendment will go to the people where they can raise their voices once again and reaffirm our commitment to the rights of Nevadans to make choices about their own bodies. I urge all of you to support SJR 7 because our freedom and our bodily autonomy must be protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Are there further remarks? Assemblyman Gray, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to SJR 7. Order of Business 15, please.
Order of Business 15.
Thank you, sir. Most of you in this body probably don't want to hear from a man on this issue, but I believe as a man and as a father, we need to speak up more about this issue specifically. Since 1990, abortion up to 24 weeks into pregnancy has been protected in the state of Nevada. This can only be changed by a ballot initiative from the voters in which a majority of Nevadans vote to change these abortion protections. In 2021, polling by the Associated Press found that only 34% of Americans believed abortion should be legal into the second trimester, with approval dropping off below 20% in the third trimester. Senate Joint Resolution 7 does two very destructive things. First, it takes away the people's power to change abortion laws should they ever desire to. Second, it expands existing abortion protections up to birth, far, far beyond where most Americans believe it should be protected to. In other words, all SJR 7 does is set a new, extremely liberal protection for abortion and make it more difficult for Nevada voters to adjust those radical new abortion protections. Given the controversial nature of this issue on abortion, I see no legitimate reason why, as the people's representatives, we should enshrine. I'm sorry, I'm really nervous about this one. This really hits home for me. I see no reason why, as the people's representatives, we would enshrine such an extreme expansion into our state constitution and revoke the voters' right to change the law. That's my view on the legal and political side of this issue. Now onto a much more personal issue regarding the topic of abortion. I understand and recognize the fact that many view abortion, to one extent or another, as a necessary evil. I must say that I respectfully disagree with you. Many people whom I have personally known, many men and women who I call my friends and family, barely escaped abortion when they were in the womb. By grace alone and against all odds, my own mother decided not to abort me. It was the late 1960s. She was a single mother of 4 other children already. She was under extreme pressure from family and friends. I like to think I've had a good impact on this world. If I weren't here, my kids wouldn't be here, a lot of my family wouldn't be here, and I thank God every day for that. Also, my own niece, who many of you met on the night I swore in here, she wouldn't be here if her biological mother had chosen a different route, which she was well on her way to before she was greeted with the idea of adoption. What worries me is that our culture at large, some, and I do not mean to impugn anybody in this room because I do have the utmost respect for you. You have stood up and answered the call to serve your state. Some have moved even further beyond the necessary evil view of abortion and see that the practice of abortion is inherently good and worthy of celebration. I cannot and will not view it as anything other than evil. On the record, Mr. Speaker and fellow assembly members, I'd like to say abortion can and never will be inherently good. Again, it is only evil. For all these reasons, I'm entirely opposed to SJR 7.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Are there further remarks? Assemblywoman Gallant.
Thank you, Speaker. I stand in opposition of SJR 7.
Assemblywoman, would you like order business 15?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Order business
15, please.
Please, order business 15.
Thank you. I've grappled with this vote that I'm told I have to cast today. Voting on SJR 7 as written has placed me in an impossible position. I want to vote to protect women's fundamental right to have full autonomy over how they birth their baby into this world. That was a freedom that I had, and how I wanted to allow my babies to be born to a mother who was, That freedom to birth how I wanted allowed my babies to be born to a mother who was free of stress and state-regulated coercion and full of peace to which my love could wrap them up as they entered into their new world. An experience to this day, when I think of it, I'm transported back into time and can relive every beautiful moment of that process, and one of the most profound moments of my life. The opportunity to protect that for other women is one of those moments you never ever believe you will have, but once presented, hard to turn your back on. Voting yes would feel like I'm thumbing my nose up at Nevadans who expressed their will in 1990 when Nevadan voters passed a referendum safeguarding the state laws legalizing abortion with the express direction of protecting it up to 24 weeks. Regardless of how I feel about abortion, or any of you feel about abortion, SJR 7 says to the voters, we don't care about protecting your vote or the parameters in which you made it. SJR 7, if sent to the ballot, places women in the most impossible position. Either vote in favor for birthing freedom while removing the very limits on abortion that this body promised would be protected, or vote against birthing freedom to protect the 1990 vote this body promised it would honor. I can in good conscience place any Nevada in this position that I have painfully struggled with the last month and sleeplessly wrestled with the last 24 hours. Today, I ask all of you to vote no and request that this resolution be split into two resolutions so that the voters can vote separately on these two separate issues independently. This is not about abortion, but rather upholding our oath to our constituents to allow serious consideration to these issues that have life-altering consequences. Voting no would demonstrate our trust in our constituents, to have healthy debate, and empower them to decide how they want to protect their rights, their freedom, and their vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Further remarks will go to Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a mother and grandmother, I rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 7 for all of Nevada's women. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Less than a year ago, the United States Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. In a single decision, nearly 50 years of judicial precedence was overturned and rolled back the rights of women across our nation. Women now have less rights than they did in 1975. This ruling was devastating for women across America and right here in Nevada because our right to choose was and still is under attack like never before. It endangers our health, our well-being, and it strips us of our most fundamental rights. SJR 7 ensures that everyone in our state is protected in the strongest possible way from ever being denied reproductive health care and from being prosecuted for addressing their reproductive needs. It will protect not just the right to abortion, but a person's right to privacy and the right to obtain birth control, prenatal care, postpartum care, miscarriage management and fertility care, and more. We know that this attack on reproductive freedom is far from over, and we can't take our statutory protections for granted, which is why we must pass SJR 7. Because Nevadans deserve to have a say in protecting their reproductive freedoms in the strongest possible way. So I urge all my colleagues to support this piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblywoman, and I will order that the remarks made under Order of Business 15 on Senate Joint Resolution number 7 be entered into today's journal. Seeing no further remarks on the resolution, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Would anyone like to change their vote? The Chief Clerk will record the vote. There are 28 ayes, 14 nays. The joint resolution, having received a constitutional majority, I declare it passed. The joint resolution is ordered transmitted to the Senate. That will take us to Order of Business 9, Introduction, First Reading, and Reference of Bills.
Assembly Bill 476, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to and authorizing the expenditure of money by the Aging and Disability Services Division of the Department of Health and Human Services for the replacement or purchase of computer hardware and associated software and door locks, and providing other matters properly in there too. Assembly Bill 477, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to and authorizing the expenditure of money by the Department of Transportation for the replacement of the Nevada Shared Radio System, and providing other matters properly in there too. Assembly Bill 478, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the State Emergency Response Commission for the replacement of computer hardware and associated software, and providing other matters properly in there too. Assembly Bill 479, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the State Board of Parole Commissioners for the replacement of computer hardware, software, and related equipment licenses to upgrade a computer operating system, and providing other matters properly in there too. Assembly Bill 480, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Interim Finance Committee to allocate to certain state agencies to implement language access plans, and providing other matters properly in there too. Assembly Bill 481, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the account for the Nevada Main Street Program, and providing other matters properly in there too. Assembly Bill 482, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the Enterprise Application Services Unit of the Division of Enterprise Information Technology Services of the Department of Administration for the replacement of an information technology service management provider and computer hardware and associated software and providing of the mayor's proper lane thereto. Assembly Bill 483 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Workforce Innovations for a new Nevada account and providing of the mayor's proper lane thereto. Assembly Bill 484 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Office of Economic Development and the Office of the Governor for the support of designated regional development authorities and providing of the mayor's proper lane thereto. Assembly Bill 485 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Legislative Fund for capital improvement projects for facilities and information technology services projects and providing of the mayor's proper lane thereto. Assembly Bill 486 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the Division of State Library Archives and Public Records of the Department of Administration for the replacement of computer hardware and associated software and the purchase of digitization equipment and technology and providing of the mayor's proper lane thereto. Assembly Bill 487 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Office of Information Security of the Division of Enterprise Information Technology Services of the Department of Administration for the replacement of computer hardware and associated software and providing of the mayor's proper lane thereto. Assembly Bill 488 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the Communication and Computing Unit of the Division of Enterprise Information Technology Services of the Department of Administration for the replacement of computer hardware and associated software, the replacement of components of a security firewall, and security upgrades to mountaintop microwave sites and providing of the mayor's proper lane thereto. Assembly Bill 489 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the Office of Finance and the Office of the Governor for the replacement of furniture and certain equipment and providing of the mayor's proper lane thereto. Assembly Bill 490 introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, an act relating to economic development, authorizing the creation of an academic medical district in a contiguous area that meets certain requirements requiring the governance of an academic medical district by a board of directors, prescribing the conditions and procedure for the dissolution of an academic medical district, authorizing the creation of a tax increment area and the issuance of bonds and other securities for certain projects within an academic medical district, authorizing the academic medical district to engage in certain other activity requiring an academic medical district to report certain information to a participating governmental entity, prescribing the proper venue for an action against an academic medical district, authorizing a governmental entity to convey certain property rights to an academic medical district, authorizing a business located in an academic medical district to receive a partial abatement of certain taxes under certain conditions and providing other matters properly related to. Senate Assembly Bill 491 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the Nevada System of Higher Education for enrollment recovery at certain institutions within the system and providing other matters properly related thereto. Assembly Bill 492 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the Nevada System of Higher Education for the renewal of certain technology leases and the replacement of certain technology equipment and providing other matters properly related thereto. Assembly Bill 493 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Nevada System of Higher Education for an interim study of the funding formula for the system and providing other matters properly related thereto. Assembly Bill 494 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the University of Nevada, Reno for the addition of weighted student credit hours resulting from the acquisition of Sierra Nevada College and providing other matters properly related thereto. Assembly Bill 495 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the Nevada Highway Patrol Division of the Department of Public Safety for the replacement of purchase of vehicles, motorcycles, weapons, and certain equipment, and a staffing study and providing other matters properly related thereto. Assembly Bill 496 introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the Department of Public Safety for costs related to the Joint Emergency Training Institute and the replacement or purchase of computer hardware and associated software, radio equipment, and certain weapons, and providing other matters properly related thereto. Assembly Bill 497, introduced by Assemblywoman Bill Ray Axelrod, an act relating to education, authorizing a pupil to attend a public school outside the zone of attendance. The pupil is otherwise required to attend in certain circumstances, and providing other matters properly related thereto.
Assemblywoman Howdegui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that all Assembly bills read and introduced be referred to the committees as indicated on the Assembly Bills Introductions list dated May 10th, 2023.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Order Business 11, second reading and amendment.
Senate Bill 40, introduced by the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, an act relating to manufactured housing, changing the name of the document issued by the Housing Division of the Department of Business and Industry, indicating the ownership of a manufactured home, mobile home, manufactured building, or commercial coach or factory-built housing from a certificate of ownership to a certificate of title, authorizing the administrator of the division to issue certain documents in electronic form, revising requirements for certain transactions involving the ownership of a manufactured home, mobile home, manufactured building, or commercial coach or factory-built housing, revising eligibility requirements for persons seeking assistance from the account for affordable housing, revising provisions governing local ordinances concerning the placement of certain manufactured homes, and providing other matters properly in thereto, the people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 27, end of Section 27, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Senate Bill 50, introduced by the Committee on Revenue and Economic Development, an act relating to taxation, revising provisions governing the sales tax holiday occurring over the day on which Nevada Day is observed and the immediately following weekend for certain members of the National Guard and certain relatives of such members, and providing other matters properly in thereto, the people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Senate Bill 171, introduced by Senators Harris et al., an act relating to crimes prohibiting the purchase, possession, or ownership of a firearm by a person who has been convicted of committing or attempting to commit a crime motivated by certain characteristics of the victim, and providing other matters properly in thereto, the people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Senate Bill 441, introduced by Senator Don Darrell Loop, an act relating to public health, eliminating the requirement for the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services to, or certain district boards of health, to adopt regulations requiring certain protocols and plans concerning prevention of and response to SARS-CoV-2, eliminating the requirement for an inspection of public accommodation facilities for compliance with such requirements, prospectively eliminating a limitation on the civil liability of certain businesses conducted for profit, governmental entities, and private nonprofit organizations for personal injury or death resulting from exposure to COVID-19, prospectively removing the authority of the Secretary of State to suspend the state business license of a person who does not comply with certain health standards related to COVID-19, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 16, end of Section 16, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file. Order Business 12, general file, and third reading.
Assembly Bill 464, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the legislative fund for the costs of project development and initial operating expenses relating to anticipated building renovations and construction, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Are there any remarks? Seeing none, the chief clerk will open the roll. Would anyone like to change their vote? Would anyone else like to change their vote? The chief clerk will record the vote. There were 35 ayes, 7 nays. The bill having received a constitutional majority declared passed and ordered transmitted to the Senate. That takes us to Order of Business 15, remarks from the floor. Assemblywoman Considine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to welcome a couple of people that are sitting with me today. First, I would like to welcome John Sasser, if you would please stand. John Sasser has been representing vulnerable people in the halls of this building since 1983. He has retired, but it is a joy to have him back and seated with me today. And also, he trained Bailey Bordelin to do the same, and I'm happy to have her here as well, if you would stand, please. She has been helping protect vulnerable people and low-income people across the state since 2015. I'm sure you recognize both of them, so I'd like to welcome them. And then I would like to take a personal moment to talk about one of our honorees, Barbara Buckley. It's hard to come up with things to say that we all haven't heard a lot of, but for me, this is an interesting moment, a wonderful moment. The first time I met former Speaker Buckley was actually in this building. And I saw what she was doing, and I thought, wow, she has figured this all out. She has found the key to balance everything. And several years later, when I began working with her, I asked her, how do you balance everything? And her response was, you don't. Another nugget of knowledge I've learned from her is I started working at the Legal Aid Center right after law school. And I asked her at one point, how long are you a lawyer how long does it take as a lawyer until you feel like a lawyer? And without missing a beat, she said 5 years. And for any lawyers in here, it's spot on. But I just am so pleased to be sharing this floor with her again in this position that I am in, that I am here because she has been a mentor, my boss, and a friend, and I'm so glad to see her here, and I'm so glad to say, welcome to the Assembly Floor, and thank you for everything you've done for all of us in Nevada, but also for me and my family. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining me today are a couple of guests on the floor. I'd like to ask them to stand, who are no stranger to the building or to this body. First is Michael Brown, who everyone should know from his former position as Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, where he did a lot to help our state and make sure that we were getting good businesses to our state that would be helpful for our economy. And then also we have former Speaker Richard Perkins, who served as Speaker in the 2001, 2003, and 2005 session, which included the session where, as I don't know if everyone's aware, where the body was equally divided. So the speakers shared, we had two speakers that shared the role, and there's lots of really fun stories from that session that I'm sure he'd love to tell you about sometime if you ever corner him. So please make them feel welcome.
Assemblyman Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I've got a friend of mine here joining us, Chris Pattison. He is a fellow Air Force vet. Used to be a constituent of mine, but PK is one of your constituents now, so you got a good guy here. He's the owner of Carson Demolition here in Carson, as well as the Sutro Tunnel Historic Site Manager. And if you guys haven't been out to see the historic Sutro Tunnel site that is just absolutely undergoing phenomenal changes and going to be open to the public here soon. We just had an event there the other day. You got to get out there and see the work that this young man has led, and he's also a wealth of Nevada history. So if you get a chance to say hi to him today, great. History questions, great. But welcome him to this body today. Thank you.
And just a reminder to members, no names of current Assembly folks on the floor, please. We'll go next to Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a day to celebrate incredible women and mentors, and I am so proud to have 3 of my mentors throughout my life. And so I'm going to start first with our former colleague, Assemblywoman Sheila Leslie. She was technically a senator, but we're just going to focus on the People's House. She was absolutely a hero of mine legislatively. I always thought she was such a fierce advocate for her community, and I looked up to all of her work in this body. And so it was an absolute shock and honor and privilege that she became one of my first and strongest supporters, and she has been a mentor to me in this process and helped me learn and grow and do the very best work that I can here. And I'm so honored that she is here, and I would like you to please join me in welcoming her back to the People's House. Okay, next, I have 2 musicians joining us today, so if you would both please rise. These 2 wonderful women are my high school and middle school band directors. And first we have Mrs. Erlene McGranahan. Mrs. Mack was my high school band director, and she was an incredible force in my life. Kind, supportive, funny, was there to support all the band nerds in her life. and also one of the first women to become a high school band director. And so she was on the forefront of fighting for more inclusion for women in Washoe County. And then we have Martha Damon O'Neill, who was my middle school band director at Sparks Middle School. She also was one of those first cohort of women to break into the band directing in Washoe County School District, a fierce advocate for her students. And I do have to tell you just a quick story about her because she is retiring after 40 years, and we have to honor that. She had jazz band at 6:30 in the morning at Sparks Middle School. And I desperately wanted to be in jazz band. I just want you to know that was the kind of student I was. But I played clarinet, and she was adamant that clarinets are not a jazz instrument. We had a strong and fierce disagreement about that. And ultimately, she relented and allowed me into the jazz band, and then allowed all the flutes and oboes and French horns too, because anyone that wanted to play could come on in. And that is exactly the kind of teacher and advocate that she is. And so please join me in honoring these two incredible women and the profound effect they have had on Washoe County students.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Little mic issues today. It's like Zoom all over again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I want to introduce Stephen Cruz, who's sitting with me here today, and he's joining us here in the Nevada State Legislature for the first time. He is a member of Woodford's Community Council and the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California. He was first appointed last fall on November 17th for the 4-year term, and he's excited to be with us here today. Please make him feel welcome.
Do we have any other order of business 15? Remarks from the floor. Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. They had to leave, but I had adorable students from Mariposa Language and Learning Academy Charter School in Reno. I highly recommend you take a field trip. It is very heartwarming, and a shout out to Principal Jenny Hunt for the work that she and the teachers and staff do there. And the students that were visiting, I gave them a little test. They were third graders. I said, do you know home means Nevada? And they sang it for me. And so if you'll help me give them a remote welcome, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, I'm the chair of Ways and Means, and I have a phenomenal fiscal staff that do amazing work. They're here many hours before we get here, and they're here long hours after we go home. And one reason they're so phenomenal is because they were trained by my guest, Mr. Mark Stevens. He's retired from our fiscal division, and would you please help me make him feel welcome?
Assemblywoman Backus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I realize in today's celebration we have a lot of former wonderful legislature staff that are here. And I wanted to introduce Allison Combs, who's here today. She worked 14 years in our research division and also served as the policy analysis for our judiciary. So please help me make Allison feel welcome today.
Do we have any other order of business 15? Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And before I go to announcements, I do want to take a privilege to introduce my guests, some of them who were very recently here with us in this body, but if you would please stand. I would like to first introduce former Assemblywoman Maggie Carlton, who served in the Nevada Legislature from 1998 until her very last session was in 2021. She served in the Senate from 1998 until 2010, and then in the Assembly from 2010 to 2022. She was a longtime chair of the Assembly Ways and Means Committee and former chair and vice chair of the Interim Finance Committee. She now serves on the Nevada Board of Education and continues to be a fierce advocate for all Nevadans. One fun fact about Maggie is she is the longest serving female legislator in our state's history. I also have the honor of having Speaker John Oseguera with me. He served in the Nevada Assembly from 2001 to 2013, being elected as Speaker of the Assembly in 2011. He is a retired Assistant Fire Chief with the North Las Vegas Fire Department and the current Executive Vice President at Strategies 360. His dedication to our great state is unwavering, and I'm so glad to have them here with me today. If you would please help me make them feel welcomed. Okay, some announcements for the floor, Mr. Speaker. I would like to let everyone know that today was the Wall of Distinction celebration, and we will be having a lunch immediately following floor in room 3100 for members and guests. So join us in room 3100. Tomorrow is Web3 ID Tech Day, and they will be having a breakfast in room 3100. There's the Children's Mental Health Acceptance Day, and most importantly, it's the Assembly versus Senate softball game at 5:30. So be there with your jerseys on. And just a reminder that if you do have a jersey, we have pictures tomorrow in this body at 11:15. So please be here at 11:15 sharp for our pictures. But don't wear your baseball jersey. Save those for the game. Seeing no other business before us, Mr. Speaker, I move that we stand adjourned until Thursday, May 11th at the hour of 11:30 a.m.
Assemblywoman Howdige has moved that the Assembly stand adjourned until Thursday, May 11th, 2023 at the hour of 11:30 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Assembly Committee on Government Affairs is going to reconvene at 1:10. You have 10 minutes.